I love how Michael Fisher recently pointed out the reality behind the new OnePlus approach. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. It seems the company we once called the flagship killer has decided to switch sides, and it's not because of the OnePlus 8 Pro. I mean, that's finally the flagship without compromise that we've been asking for, so it's up to you if you want to pay more for it. Now, for me, the main antagonist of the story is the OnePlus 8. This phone is meant to satisfy those looking for everything OnePlus has been known for, and yet this is the first time we get the compromise without the aggressive price. At $699, we're already talking iPhone 11 territory, which means that either OnePlus has forgotten why it's developed such a fan base, or it might just be that it feels that its flagship killer successor is just as good or better. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is OnePlus 8 versus iPhone 11, sponsored by Surfshark. Stick around to learn how you can save on one of the most powerful VPNs. What happens when the tables are turned? Just a couple of years ago, the OnePlus 6 was half the price of the iPhone X, so calling out a winner in any comparison would have always been a no-brainer. But then in 2019, it's as if Apple decided to play hardball with how aggressive it priced the iPhone 11, and even that comparison was easy because the OnePlus 7T was still $100 less expensive. For 2020, you'd assume that this is OnePlus telling Apple, hey, my OnePlus 8 is equal to your iPhone 11 given the price match, but that's not entirely accurate. You actually first have to acknowledge how different these phones are. They're both made of the same aluminum and glass materials, but visually, this is a clear design from 2018 competing with a more modern product. For example, the OnePlus 8 is 14 grams lighter than the iPhone 11, and this is hard to believe since the 8 is 10 millimeters taller, addressing the large phone frenzy of most. It's also 3 millimeters narrower and a hair thinner, and this is even with the larger 4300 mAh battery versus 3110. Like, props to OnePlus for their more efficient design. Second is 5G. Might not be something you care about, but if you hold on to a phone for more than a year, you will. And the iPhone does not include it. While the OnePlus 8 doesn't just include the Sub-6 flavor of T-Mobile, but also the millimeter wave flavor on Verizon. And that latter statement is actually the most important because in the past, every single phone that supported the high band on Big Red was massive just to fit all the extra antennas. Well, I think it's safe to say that the OnePlus 8 is probably the smallest phone that supports millimeter wave. Third is the internals, but not for a chip comparison as the 865 wins certain things and the A13 Bionic wins others. What matters to you is which phone gives you more for the same money, and well, the OnePlus 8 starts at double the RAM, double the storage that's technically faster. Bluetooth is also a newer standard, though Wi-Fi is the same. Really, the iPhone only wins in its IP rating versus OnePlus being splash-proof and the slow wireless charging support. Sadly, the OnePlus 8 has no coil, but the Warp Charge 30T adapter in the box makes the iPhone's 5-watt solution look like a toy in a Cracker Jack box. Then the display battle only makes matters worse for the iPhone. Sure, Apple does know how to calibrate an LCD, but it's no fluid AMOLED. We're talking 6.55 inches versus 6.1, 88% screen-to-body ratio versus 70, 1080p resolution versus an odd 828p, HDR10 Plus support versus none, 90Hz refresh rate versus 60, more than 1,000 nits of brightness versus 625, very minor bezels versus some of the largest left. Like, sorry Apple, but the OnePlus 8 is just that good. We're all quarantined and, I decided to spend some... And sure, I could say that the speaker quality is similar, but that's about it. On these new models, but at the same time, it's about more... I think it's really a no-brainer that the OnePlus 8 is not just superior when it comes to hardware, but also gives you a lot more for the same money. Now, by now, you're already accustomed to my impressions when it comes to comparing iOS to Android. I always feel that the best thing is to just give them a tie because it's all a matter of taste. I mean, there's no such thing as a special iPhone 11 version of iOS, aside from letting you flip the screen in certain applications. It is what it is regardless of which phone you pick. Those of you looking for simplicity and consistency, I think there's no better choice than what Apple offers. If anything, I'd say I prefer Apple's App Store because in many cases, certain applications are exclusive to iOS, and those that aren't still tend to be more complete. Still, for customizability, Android is king, and Oxygen OS remains my favorite platform. With Apple, it's either you buy into gestures or a home button, where OnePlus users can choose both. You can pick Amazon's Assistant versus the Google Assistant any day, and having the Google feed on the launcher is far more useful than Apple's choice of widgets at the left. And then there's the added perks like reading mode, Zen mode, and OnePlus gaming features. Again, not calling out a winner, but I think it's clear that OnePlus is offering a more complete experience. Now, regardless of which device you pick, I do believe you should match the power of either platform with the power of a VPN. I believe that everyone should have a VPN for tons of reasons, and one of the most complete and affordable solutions with added benefits is today's sponsor, Surfshark. It's just $1.99 a month, and the benefits begin with allowing unlimited multiple connections at once, which I haven't seen any other VPN service provide. A VPN allows you to connect locally to different regions, so you don't have to worry about your favorite Netflix series being blocked in your country. You can even avoid price discrimination by companies who bump up the prices of plane tickets or hotels depending on where you're browsing from. And then there's browser security, which is a huge issue everywhere, and Surfshark allows you to not just encrypt your connection, but you can multi-hop and use different servers for encryption at the same time. For half the price of a latte a month, I know of no other VPN service that offers so much. I highly recommend you give Surfshark a try. Follow the first link in the description below and enter promo code Pocketnow. You get 83% off and an extra month for free. Now, after using the OnePlus 8 for weeks and the iPhone 11 for months on and off, I'm gonna call the endurance battle another tie. The iPhone 11 is and has always been a media consumption king, but so has every single OnePlus phone that I've ever tried. If anything, I'd say that I'm really impressed that the 8 handles daily tasks with all these added antennas. It could just be that it's because I haven't been able to test 5G during the whole COVID-19 mess, but from the experience I had with the 7T Pro on 5G, I don't expect many differences. Phone calls on both sound good as well, but I do prefer the deeper audio coming from the iPhone, even if callers didn't really tell a difference. Now, the battle where I felt that the OnePlus 8 was going to be no match to the iPhone 11 was the camera, and that would have been the case if I would have run this comparison a week ago, before the most recent software update. I was really underwhelmed with this camera on my first video, but things have changed. Spec-wise, the numbers game belongs to OnePlus. We're not just talking about more megapixels on the primary sensor, but also a larger die. This allows the company to crop its way into the telephoto camera it doesn't include, while Apple can't do any tricks for lossless zoom. They both have an ultra-wide, though OnePlus offers more megapixels, and that third sensor on the OnePlus 8 is a 2-megapixel macro that does sound like something cool to have, but the implementation is washed out and just unusable in most cases. As for results, well, where do I start? This is one of those cases where during the day you will notice differences. The iPhone tends to be warmer and smoother around the edges. It's more visually pleasing to the viewer, but I sometimes feel that OnePlus was doing a more accurate job, even if a tad over-sharpened in certain cases. Both have the versatility of an ultra-wide and neither has a telephoto, but the OnePlus pulls more information out of its primary for the 2x digital crop than the iPhone. Now, night mode is where things start to get interesting. OnePlus recently pushed the software update to the OnePlus 8 and it shows. It still favors avoiding grain with the ultra-wide, but it beats the pants out of the iPhone, which doesn't even have a night mode in the setting. The iPhone 11 is just completely useless here, but then the tables turn in the primary cameras. Both phones are comparable in detail in avoiding grain, but the iPhone's drift to warmer photos makes them more eye-pleasing. Now, that added warmth doesn't always play in favor of the iPhone, and this is most evident in portraits, where at times I look far more orange than I really am, and the separation of the subject is sometimes lost. The OnePlus 8 does a better job with the separation, but I'm not a fan of this odd light aura that it creates around subjects. I also noticed some odd inconsistencies in color between the wide crop and the regular crop on the iPhone 11, with the latter being more true to life. That said, flip the lights out and try a low light selfie and whoa, I never thought the iPhone would perform this bad. In the end, I'd call photography more a pick your poison, but it's when we get to video that the iPhone wins. Both have the same capabilities from the primary cameras, and I can praise OnePlus for its stabilization, but Apple does a far better job at avoiding the moire you see in the palm tree, and also that warping Android phones are notorious for. The iPhone just seems like more a camcorder than a phone, and if we flip cameras, the iPhone wins again. We have a far wider crop, far better dynamic range, and hey, this is 4K video, where the OnePlus 8 is washed out, tight on the crop, and limited to 1080p. To conclude, let me start by clarifying that I walked into this comparison thinking that the iPhone 11 would win. That sure, I felt that the OnePlus 8 offered better hardware and a more complete package, but I could just not forgive a phone at this price range for its lackluster camera as I was testing it a week ago. And obviously, even if this phone is 5G, it's not like if a lot of people really care about it yet. Thing about it is, it's amazing what a software update can do, and I actually received another software update after I took the sample photos that you saw in this video, so there's clearly a lot more testing to do. I mean, the iPhone 11 is baked. It is what it is. I doubt that Apple is going to push any other software update that'll add any sort of improvement we don't already know about until iOS 14 comes to town. The OnePlus 8 is a different story. It's still being baked, and judging by the OnePlus track record, it'll clearly be getting improvements before and after it reaches stores next week. I know lots of you are diehard Apple fans, and for you the concept of buying a phone is all about being an iPhone, regardless of what it does or doesn't have. I'd even say that if you're planning on doing YouTube videos and are looking for a good camera alternative, I'd pick the iPhone 11 over even the Galaxy S20 Ultra any day. Thing is, for absolutely everything else, if I had to pick just one out of these two phones, you just can't deny that the OnePlus 8 is a better buy. Both of these phones feel like flagship killers, but the differences tip in favor of OnePlus. At the time of this comparison, buying a OnePlus 8 almost feels like if you're investing in the future and not the past. Let us know which one would you pick in the comments down below, as this is a tough comparison. Both these phones are priced the same, but they could not be more different. While you're at it, follow us on social media, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Also follow me on my personal handles to see me play around with phones as I test them in the real world while at home. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.